good morning. Obviously, I'm still a little hoarse.
There's nothing little about you, sir.
That's true. Go ahead and talk for a minute, Cameron. I want to see how the mic's picking up on you because I had to make some changes yesterday.
Oh, good. I get to run my mouth. That's one of my favorite activities.
And that's enough. I've got the levels. So, we're gonna do a short. I can't do this for very long. This is the herbal remedy tea that I'm drinking. It's called
Coffee.
It's black.
Like the bottom of my soul.
So, little levity before we move forward. Krista,
with the oncoming constitutional crisis.
Yeah, Krista cracked a joke. Things I trust more than this election, and Steve responded, Chinese beef. There was a Chinese restaurant in Brunswick, Maine that I used to frequent when I was a kid. We would go and kickbox at the dojo in the morning, and then we would go to the Chinese joint, and we would literally eat at the Chinese buffet until someone told us to leave.
Even moon get full sometime.
Yeah, all those fantastic jokes. Side says all you can eat, but it's not for you. Try vegetable, try broccoli, right? So we would get kicked out every Saturday. We would eat until they threw us out. That restaurant unfortunately got shut down. It got shut down because it turned out that the sweet and sour chicken was seagull that they were poaching nearby. So, and
was it good?
It was. It was really fun. And the guy wasn't wrong. This is back when you could get pork at a Chinese buffet, and I mostly ate the Szechuan pork and the sweet and sour pork. But I had the sweet and sour chicken on more than one occasion, and that seagull was delicious.
Yes, and actually Steve makes the one off West Avenue. Yeah, I remember that scandal, Crystal. Things that you know if you grew up in this area. Steve makes a fantastic point that I think is excellent for jumping off for the thing we're going to discuss this morning. Between two cycles of completely inaccurate polls, the anomalies from so many places this cycle, I fear that voting is no longer viable. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to adjust that claim a little bit, so that I can agree with you. Voting, the act of voting, is still and always will be viable. Our current election system is deeply, deeply broken. And I'll mention some things. Excuse me. Steven Crowder just put out a great video yesterday, like first thing yesterday morning, where this is not speculation and claiming that there's voter fraud going on. They had a poll watcher who was a lawyer actually film people taking sacks of votes, of ballots, out of the back of unmarked white vans in the alley behind the polling stations, loading them into small igloo coolers like you might pack your lunch in, wheeling those into the voting place in, I shit you not, Red Flyer brand wagons, and then handing them to people, and the people walking into the polling station unhindered. No, they walked right through security without being searched, without being wanded, no magnetometer. Nobody bothered to ask them to open the coolers and show them what's in there. Some of these people were walking in with just straight up, like Santa's Magic Toy Shop, toy bag sacks filled with what were clearly votes. And here's what's the most troubling bit about this. This was happening in, was it Michigan or Washington that suddenly had 138,000 votes that were 100% for Biden? It was Michigan.
I think that was Michigan.
But
then I think they later claimed that was a rounding error. It was supposed to be 13,000 votes instead of 130,000. Hell of a rounding error.
Yeah, except that's not how much the polls changed by. So some 138,000 ballots just suddenly appeared for Joe Biden. And apparently there's video of that occurring, of people bringing in incredibly suspicious ballots in unmarked vans and just basically smuggling them into the poll station in coolers. And then quite separately, and I'm still not clear if this is from the same the same poll station, but quite separately from that, we have video footage of somebody who's inside the poll station, so somebody who's supposed to be counting ballots, seeing some shady shit going on. You know, these igloo coolers come in, and then all of a sudden people are taping cardboard up over the windows, up over the glass to hide what's going on. That there is shadiness going on in this election is, I think, a material certainty.
Well, yeah, and it is going to lead to an ongoing constitutional crisis. I think what Steve means, because I mean he's just he's typing something, and he's got limited time. He's trying to actually work this job, and be a participant. But the viability of elections themselves are viable. Voting itself, as Chris points out, is a viable method for determining something. I'm going to actually go back to something that Rush Limbaugh has talked about quite a bit, that what the left wants to do is to find a way to cancel elections, because, you know, it's just so aggravating that dumbass plebs like Chris and I happen to have our own opinions and might just occasionally agree with you, even though you went to Harvard or Cornell or whatever. So,
just so we're clear, when I'm hiring people and I look at a resume, if you list a college degree on there, part of our interview is going to be, I'm going to ask you which classes you took and what you thought about them. This isn't just to weed out the rubber-brained little shits that have been brainwashed into worrying about their white privilege and white guilt and heteronormativity and all that buzzword bullshit. I need to know that the classes you took were not just checking a box and were actually something that you took because you had a material interest in advancing yourself as a person. Because I've seen this so many times. The vast majority of people who go for a college degree, they're looking for a piece of paper. They check a bunch of boxes on it. And when you do the check the box, get the paper path through an education, what you come out the other side with is not an education. What you come out the other side with is the rote memorization of a propaganda campaign. And you're not useful.
So
I wouldn't let you flip my burgers with that piece of paper. You've been made less useful than you were when you entered.
So, anyhow, cancel the elections. They obviously cannot outright cancel the elections. The left has to accomplish its goals through deception. If the left was honest, if, for example, they were going to tell the truth and, oh, hey, look, Donald Trump picked up one elector. We've got a tracker going over here.
Yeah, we're going to share that with you and talk about it in just a minute, too, so keep going.
But the left has to engage in deception. They can't tell you that, actually, yeah, we kind of do just want to shut down the entire fossil fuel industry. We don't care that we're not in a position that solar cannot yet keep up, that wind cannot yet keep up. They can't tell you the truth about that, because if they did, you wouldn't vote for them. So they can't outright cancel the election, but they can piss all over the election so hard, nobody wants to participate in it. See, we're at the point now where, let's see, total popular vote totals. Basically, both candidates have reached or surpassed the number of votes Barack Obama got in the 2008 election. And that's part of why Barack Obama had such a resounding victory. The popular vote doesn't matter as much as the electoral college vote, but it is possible that the popular vote can be so massive it just swamps the electoral system. Obama won Iowa. Obama won Ohio. Obama won Florida. States that are battleground states that flip back and forth, that are the bellwethers, as they say. So you've got this thing that has happened here where the silent Trump voter was real. There were people that had been disenfranchised and had not voted in several cycles, or people that had never voted before. I won't go into any more detail because of accidental doxing and whatnot. But one of the things that Donald Trump was struggling with was the middle class suburban white woman. I happen to have a colleague who's a middle class suburban white woman. She's in her 40s. She's literally never voted before. Never. And this time around, she decided to vote for Donald Trump because, can't argue with results. She was very jaded on the whole process. They're all liars. They're all shitheads. Why? Why even get involved? Why? The only promises they keep are the promises that benefit them personally. It's not like they actually keep actual promises of ending corruption and depowering lobbyists and all that stuff. It's always bullshit. But in this case, Donald Trump actually made headway on that. Not to mention peace in the Middle East and renegotiating trade deals and pulling us out of the Paris climate change accords and just all the provably good things that Donald Trump did as president. And then I go back to myself. I talked about before how in 2016 I was a very hesitant Trump voter, but in 2020 I was an extremely enthusiastic Trump voter. I've made the point several times that the two guys I was really looking at were Ted Cruz and Rand Paul, and I was looking at them because they were rock-ribbed, right-wing, Tea Party friendly. Like, they checked all the right boxes. They'd been warriors for the right for some time. And I've often observed that if Ted Cruz or Rand Paul had become president and it had a very similar presidency, guys like Chris and I would be saying, see, this is why you vote for the right. You know, this is our philosophy on display, making it happen. And so now that you've got all these people that have come in, they're excited, they've got somebody they can get behind, you just have to piss all over that election. You have to. You have to piss all over the election, even if Donald Trump wins. And I still think there's a good solid chance he does, for so many reasons that we're about to get into. Thank you, Project Veritas.
Unfortunately, I think he's going to win it in the courts, but I think he is going to win it.
But even that, a tainted win, a lot of those people that got awakened to the process and now wanted to participate in it and actively try and take their country back, why? Why is that female colleague of mine ever going to vote again after this election? She got involved, she decided to care, and she got shit on. Do you think she ever votes again? Ever? For the rest of her life? And that's how you cancel an election, or cancel elections, without actually having to cancel elections.
Yeah, and let's be very clear about what's going on here. The Democrat National Party, the DNC, the Democrat National Committee, they are beholden now to the Justice Democrats and
China
and the socialists. What is it? The AOC, the Democratic Socialists of America. Socialists and communists are not two different things. They really aren't.
Yeah, it's like the difference between milk chocolate and dark chocolate is still chocolate.
So to be clear, in socialist and communist countries, let's take North Korea, for example. It's one of the most extreme examples. They have elections. They have huge elections in North Korea. Okay? But the same guy always wins.
With like 99% of the vote.
A few people are designated to vote for the opposition party to create the illusion that the people want the people want the party in power to stay in power. But the opposition party is a stooge, it's a puppet. They only exist to create the illusion of an election. I'm not saying that I'm not. They're not like the third parties in America. The third party candidates in America are legitimate parties, and you can vote for them, and nobody's going to stop you. Yes, some of us will tell you that it's a bad idea to vote for the third party. I'm not going to tell you that you're wasting your vote on the third party by not voting for one of the two big candidates. I think it's reasonable. I think it's very reasonable to cast a protest vote. I will tell you that the Green Party and the Libertarian Party, the two third parties that are actually viable, that are theoretically viable parties, neither of them is substantially discrete from the Democrat National Committee. The Libertarian Party is more pro-gun, but they're also more pro-abortion and more pro-open borders. And as long as your platform includes killing babies and dissolving my country, you can piss right up your own nose. I will not tell you that you're wasting your vote on those parties because of the. I mean, there's an argument, and I can articulate that argument, but I'm not going to tell you you're wasting your vote because it's strategically without value in a national election. It is, in fact, strategically with value in a national election. It's like abstaining from voting by casting your ballot, but making sure that a ballot is cast that goes not to one of the two parties. And there's a credible argument to be made there. I will, however, tell you that right now, the Republican is the only reasonable vote to make, because it is the only vote you can make that is not voting against the continuation of the existence of a vote. It is the only vote you can make right now that is not voting for post-birth abortion. It is the only vote that has a chance to win, which you can cast against repealing the Second Amendment. And I can go on with that.
Hey, real quick. Ada joined us. Hello. Lindsay joined us. Better late than never. Excuses. And Danny joined us. So, hi, ladies. Thanks for popping by.
Good morning. I'm gonna go ahead and pop over to the thing, and I'm just gonna expand this because we'll just go ahead and hide both our pretty faces.
Oh, see? Equity in action, folks.
Well, something like that. I am not the guy to ask for equity. Okay, so here are some things that are worth looking at. We know that Michigan flipped to Biden after being in Trump's column most of the night.
Oh boy, and we're going to come back to that.
And yeah, there's some shady shit going on in Michigan right now. Wisconsin, similar. I don't know if there's as much naked shadiness going on in Wisconsin, but the way it flipped looks a little suspicious to me. Now, Nevada got called for Biden very early, and it turned out that that's not
Arizona.
It's Arizona got called for Biden very early, and then you get the reporting, and they said, "Oh, well, we thought we had 95% of the vote. We only had 80% of the vote, or something like that." And Trump has the gap there has closed dramatically. Now, I would also like to point out that the gap there is tiny. It's less than 2 points, less than 2%, and they've only got 90% reporting, which strikes me as odd, strikes me as a little suspicious, because you look at this map and it's like, oh, well, it's a clearly solid blue state. And no, it's not. In fact, when I looked at it earlier, this was clearly Trump, and this was clearly Trump. So
I mean, this is the same state that had Maricopa County and kept sending Sheriff Joe back up.
Yeah, and Maricopa County went to Biden. It's because of Phoenix.
Ah, yes.
And we're going to have to do a whole breakdown on the cancer that are these large urban centers. I could do without all of them. But, so, if right now it's so close, Nevada could swing to Trump easily. I mean, let's take a quick peek. Nevada could swing to Trump easily. in the two blue cities where Biden is leading, he's leading by a relatively small margin. Okay, this is 7 points. That's pretty substantial. But Trump is just hammering him. Just
everywhere else.
Murdering him the rest of the state. So, yeah, these large urban centers making decisions for the whole state is disgusting.
Yeah.
Because what you have there is in these large urban centers, it's not a large number of the voters. You take a look at the demographics in these centers. It is the vast majority of the voters in a city who are welfare rats, ghetto dwellers. They are people who are voting for more money to be given to them by the government. You get outside of the dense centers, you get out to where the farmland is and all that. And this is true in every state. Okay? We'll take California, for example. California is a little less dramatic, but you get out into farm country, even in California, and it's strongly red. That's because on the coast and in the big cities, you're inundated with ghetto, where people are voting for the government to point a gun at you and take your money away. Even Washington State went very strongly for Joe Biden. But as soon as you get away from Seattle and all that, and get out into the countryside, get out into the communities, right? These aren't just red leads. These are mostly very strong red leading, right? And we could play this game in every state, right? You get outside of the dense urban centers, strong red. That's true everywhere. Now, let's ask this question. You've got California called for Joe Biden, right? Obviously, we expected California to go with Joe Biden. There's so many commies in Los Angeles and San Francisco, 65 to 32. But with only 73% reporting, there is actually, it's very slim, and I think he'd have to win 25%. He'd have to win the entirety of the remaining 0.05% for Trump to take California, and that's not just going to happen. So calling California for Trump, that's perfectly fair. But Alaska has not been called for, calling California for Biden, that's perfectly fair. But Alaska has not been called for Trump. 62 to 33, right? 65 to 32, 62 to 33. These are similar, these are very similar differences, right? Now, Alaska's only showing 52% reporting. So it's somewhat more possible for Biden to win Alaska with that other 52%, with the other 47.06% if they report. But the likelihood of Alaska going red is as good as the likelihood of California, or of Alaska going blue, is as good as the likelihood of California going red. They refuse to call states that Trump has clearly won. Georgia's a little tighter.
I just actually got an update from Georgia that says there's only 25,000 votes left to count.
Yeah, that's not going to do the trick.
How many votes total have been cast in Georgia? I mean, both candidates were million. Over. Yeah, like what the? So 25,000 votes left. We'll see.
To make up point.
Yeah, to make up basically a third of a point. Yeah.
But North Carolina, if it's 100% reporting and you've got a 2-point difference, that's clearly Trump. They won't call it for him, though. They won't call these last states for Trump so that they continue to say that he's only won 214 electoral votes.
Well, you see what the indicators are. If the map holds as is, Joe Biden literally wins by a single elector. Did you know that a faithless elector actually switched from Trump to Biden? That we could have had the 269 versus 269 situation?
No.
And yeah, my mom was telling me about it yesterday, that there was a faithless elector who switched to Biden, and that one elector could be the one who makes the difference. So, yeah. Now... Oh, look, he's going to Google it.
Yeah. Oh, we won't get into this one right now because I'd have to run it down. But I'll definitely go check that out in a little bit. I just Googled it and popped up a tab so that I've got it handy for later.
Steve says 0.3% recount territory. Look, recounts are one of those things where they sound good on paper. And honestly, in practice, they're a fantastic idea. But you remember that time Al Franken was losing and then there was a recount and then somehow Al Franken won? You remember that? It made me very suspicious of recount. Because how often, like even going back to 2000, okay? Al Gore managed to get just a few more votes. And just a few more votes. And just a few more votes. And I'll tell you how 2020 is different than 2000, okay? We had an anomaly happen in one state in Florida in 2000. We had the other 49 states figured out pretty damn quick. I mean, PDQ. Now here it is days later, and multiple states have had some odd things happen, and is this just how it's going to be forever? That we won't know who the winner is for days afterward? Again, that goes back to that point that Steve made about, there's no fate. The voting's not viable anymore. This is how you cancel an election without actually having to overtly cancel the election.
And so let's take a quick look at Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is pretty tight, and there's still 14% of the vote left to count. Here's what I think is happening. Okay, so Josh Shapiro. That other one's somebody else that I know. Sorry, Josh. Josh Shapiro is the AG in Pennsylvania. He has been very vocal about how he's literally said that we will not let Donald Trump win Pennsylvania. And not just like we're going to fight and win this thing and we're all going to vote and do our thing. No. He has said, we will not allow Donald Trump to declare victory until all Pennsylvania votes have been counted. And gone on to elaborate that we have beaten Donald Trump in court in 6 out of 6 cases. Let's be clear about what these cases are. One of these cases is they got that whore shill garbage traitor
dude
Roberts to
John Roberts. Okay.
Yeah. Justice Roberts, who should absolutely be impeached as a faithless judge.
I can say whatever I want. I have books to prove that I'm not gay, Lindsay.
What? That?
Sorry, I was just responding to Roberts.
Oh.
Shitburger.
Okay. So, Robert, the cases that Shapiro's talking about, Roberts flipping on the absolute shitburger that he is. These cases are allowing the courts in Pennsylvania, in clear violation of the law, which requires the legislatures to assume this authority, allowing the courts to extend days to count the ballots, allowing ballots to be received after the election and still counted, removing the security features of requiring postage marks on ballots in Pennsylvania, and even removing the requirement that the voter's signature be matched in Pennsylvania. So literally the cases that the Attorney General, who is a Democrat and has said that he will, has openly claimed that he will break the law to swing the election for Biden. The court cases that he's talking about winning against Trump are all court cases in which he and the courts in Pennsylvania have decided to actively remove security measures to make voter fraud more possible easier to commit, and essentially in some places just going ahead and changing the law to say that this thing which was always voter fraud until it was really convenient for us is no longer technically voter fraud for the purposes of this one election that we really, really, really want to win because Orange Man bad. So, all that said, I think we're about to...
The ladies want to see our faces. It's hard to argue with the ladies.
Okay, so I suspect that what we're about to see is actually that Trump is going to end up winning Pennsylvania because the shenanigans appear to have worked in Michigan and in Wisconsin. And if Biden can hold on to Nevada and Arizona, and they can get away with the shenanigans in Michigan and Wisconsin, then they can pull the plug on the shenanigans in Pennsylvania.
Donald Trump can have it. We only need 270.
Right.
If 270 to 268 is still...
And the same thing I think is happening in North Carolina and Georgia. There's some shenanigans going on there. They're in cahoots with the AP and the other people that call, all the press outlets that actually call the states for one candidate or the other. They're refusing to call states that Trump is clearly winning, precisely so that every time they find themselves in danger of losing in a state that changes that 270, because it's awful convenient that Michigan happened to have a bunch of shenanigans, and that happened to put Biden at exactly 270. That's awfully convenient.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider that now I'm being told that there was a faithless elector involved in reaching that point.
Well, this is what my mother told me. I haven't verified it.
I understand. But basically they're in a position where they've got some shenanigans and they're waiting to see how certain states shape up.
Yeah, how many magic ballots do we need?
They can pull the plug on the fraud operations in these other states, because the bigger the fraud, the easier it'll be to bust. It looks like the fraud in Michigan with 140,000 ballots showing up 100% for Joe Biden being walked in coolers. It looks like that might be...
just enough.
Actually, it looks like that might have been the hardest one to bust, but now that there's video evidence and people calling in with anonymous tips to Veritas... No, Alex, I would consider that Biden got the votes if it wasn't 11th hour, just exactly the right number of votes in a batch of votes that went 100% to Biden with none of them going to Trump. If it weren't that obviously shady, then I would totally concede that there's a possibility that Biden won this fair and square.
Well, there's another issue.
But we saw so much shit going on where states were being called extra early for Biden, and then states that were clearly for Trump were just not being called until the last possible second. There was so much shadiness just in the media reporting on the election that's all very suspicious.
So, Steve said in our private chat, and then yes, we're definitely going to move over to the Veritas stuff.
Hold on. Alex says it was always going to be 11th hour with mail-in ballots. No, I'm going to push back on you with that. It wasn't always going to be 11th hour with mail-in ballots. What it was always going to be with mail-in ballots, what we've been told for months it was going to be with mail-in ballots, is that it was going to stretch the counting process out for weeks or months. So we were given that expectation for weeks and months, and then all of a sudden everything changes again and tries to switch back. So what you're talking about is you've got one side of the aisle that is actively engaged in moving goalposts, and that's shady, right? I don't know 100% that there was fraud going on here, but if it doesn't smell bad to you, then I think you're not. I think you're missing something. There's a lot going on here that is not simply people voting.
Our moderator Steve pointed out in our private chat, and I thought this was a brilliant point, that there's no way.
Chat? Oh,
our private chat. Yes. That there's no way that a kid sniffer that couldn't get 1,000 people to show up to his rallies gets more votes than Obama, and I think that's pretty darn sound logic. Now, I could see how Trump met or surpassed Obama's popular vote total. Every single rally he did over the past couple of weeks had thousands of people show up, even in deeply blue areas, like Pennsylvania. I mean, so anyhow, but it's 8:15. We haven't even touched the Veritas stuff yet.
Well, and I don't want to get too deep into the Veritas stuff yet because it looks like there's, it looks like very much a more to come thing. I do want to give some pushback on Biden getting more votes than Obama. Obama was the first black president. He was very popular with the Democrats. He was very popular.
Let me be clear.
But Biden has some of. Biden is like Hitler.
Oh dear. You've just invalidated the argument. What's that, like Internet Rule 37? If you invoke Hitler, you lose?
Obama did not have a Trump to run against. The voter turnout for Obama was for Obama. Nobody voted for Biden. Every blue vote you see on that map was against Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the Jews.
Okay.
And it's that simple. Democrats hate Jews. Donald Trump is the Jews. They came out to put Donald Trump in the shower. That's the only reason that Biden was able to get more votes than Obama. Nobody voted for Biden. They all voted against Trump. And you are much more likely to take action. I would like to go and have a cheeseburger right now. But if you draw your gun right now, I am much more likely to take decisive action to put a stop to whatever the hell is about to happen on the other end of that. I'm fat and lazy enough not to go and get a cheeseburger. I'm actually fat and lazy enough to not get fatter and lazier because I'm too lazy to take the individual steps required to consume that cheeseburger right now. But putting a stop to you drawing a gun, very different creature. And that's what these people think. They see Donald Trump and they think he's the Jews. Gas him. They have something to hate. You give people something to hate and they will congeal around it.
Yeah, this one will likely be flagged. You're very correct. Whoops, our bad. It's got Jews as a keyword.
Yeah, flag me? Well, flag you, you sons of whores. Yeah.
Well, real quick, I want to bring up the Project Veritas thing because, yes, there's more to come, but this is, of course, O'Keefe he's not just a journalist.
I didn't say don't bring it up. I said I don't want to go too far with it.
O'Keefe is not just a journalist, and he's not just an intelligent dude. O'Keefe understands the showmanship of it. He understands he's young enough where he understands we live in a world where the meme war is the war. It is a battle for your mind. Bombs and bullets are going by the wayside. Instead, if you could have like a thought virus, like a parasite, penetrate a person, well, that's how you really break somebody. You reprogram them into NPCs, be one of us and one of us.
It is better to end than to mend. It is better to end than to mend. The more stitches, the less riches. The more stitches to a gram saves a
gram saves a dam. A gram saves a dam. Yep. Yep. So, anyhow, and go and watch it for yourself, okay? Because these are the kinds of things that are so explosive, you should make up your own mind on it. I'd like to think we're relatively authoritative sources, but we occasionally get things wrong here and there. But in this Veritas video, it appears that a postal worker from Michigan, okay, this is important, contacted Veritas and said that mail was coming in, ballots were being separated off, and they were being instructed on November 4th to stamp these ballots with the date of November 3rd. Like I said, go watch it for yourself. But this is one of the main problems I had with mass mail-in voting. And Tim Pool and Styx Hexenhammer and so many others have made the point, and it's an excellent point to be made. Once the game begins, you can't change the rules. Well, the game had begun. If we're going to move to a system of mass mail-in voting, it has to be done outside of a presidential cycle. There's too much on the line. Just too much. And, you know, it's just a fact. It's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just human nature. If you are arguing for a rule change, part of the reason why you're arguing for a rule change is you believe that rule change benefits you. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's human nature. But if you're the Democrats and you want last-minute mail-in voting, yeah, no, I wonder who that's going to benefit. Probably not the Republicans. No. And, you know, this goes back to, God, voting should be hard. Oh, you have to wait in line for 4 hours? I'm sorry. We can make reasonable accommodations. The guy on crutches can go to the front of the line. And then there's other things. You know, gosh, it just... Nope, not going to rabbit hole it. Not going to do it. In Michigan, according to a Michigan postal worker, ballots were coming in on the 4th, and they were being stamped as received on the 3rd. And you say, oh, well, that couldn't have been more than a few thousand ballots. Well, shit.
That's enough.
Yeah, when it's... You could go back and you could look at the 2016 election results. You could make a solid argument that because of the way the Electoral College system works, Donald Trump won by less than 100,000 votes. Because remember, he won Wisconsin last time, and it was a big shock. I'll never forget Wolf Blitzer's face. We're calling Wisconsin for Donald Trump.
I mean, this election, no matter who wins before the lawsuits go through, just on the raw numbers, what we're looking at right now, this election will have been decided on a grand total of less than 100,000 votes.
I think so. Yes. So, but that in and of itself is terrifying. And again, go and watch the video for yourself. O'Keefe asks the guy, well, why are you risking this? Why are you giving us this information? And the guy's answer is real simple. It's shady, and I don't like it.
Well, that's all I've got this morning. And I mean, that's all I've got left this morning. So I'm going to go ahead and...
Oh, that was a short show.
It was 1 hour.
I know, it was a short show.
Thanks for watching, guys. We will see y'all tomorrow. Be safe out there, and we love you. Thanks for watching.